This is the Washington Insider. Now, here is your host, Jacqueline Policastro.
Welcome to Washington Insider. I'm Jacqueline Policastro. It's the final push. The candidates are sprinting towards Election Day. President Obama and Mitt Romney are doing everything they can to convince voters they belong in the White House. Coming up on today's show, the final presidential debate. Did it make a difference? Women and politics, how one gender could decide the outcome of the election, and the big message to voters from the leaders of the Republican and Democratic parties. But first, we start with this week's biggest political headlines. National news outlets obtained emails saying the White House was informed a militant Islamic group claimed credit for the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi 2 hours after the attack began. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton responded by criticizing the emails. She says they lacked a full perspective. An independent accountability review board is investigating the incident. The U.S. government is suing Bank of America for $1 billion. The Justice Department alleges the bank committed fraud by selling defective mortgages to government-backed mortgage finance firms Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The complaint says it led to more than $1 billion in losses for taxpayers. And Mitt Romney's campaign and his super PAC supporters outspent President Obama and his allies this week. Romney and other Republican groups purchased $30 million worth of ads in 9 swing states, while the president and his supporters spent just under $22 million in the same states. The 2012 presidential debates are now in the history books. President Obama and Mitt Romney met for their final debate at Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. Washington Insider correspondent Ted Fioraliso breaks it down.
The topic was foreign policy, but President Obama and Mitt Romney kept bringing the debate back to the domestic issues they know are on the minds of voters this election. President Obama and Mitt Romney fielded questions from moderator Bob Schieffer about some pretty heavy topics, including the changing political world in the Middle East, what the U.S. response would be to an attack on Israel, and the country's involvement with Syria. It was during the Syria question that the candidates reverted back to domestic policy.
Making sure that we're bringing manufacturing back to our shores so that we're creating jobs here, as we've done with the auto industry.
I know what it takes to create 12 million new jobs and rising take-home pay.
The tone of this debate was more civil than the town hall in New York a week earlier, but the candidates did have a few exchanges, like this one over Iraq.
Just a few weeks ago that you indicated that we should still have troops in Iraq.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. That's just,
you made a major speech.
I indicated that you failed to put in place a status of forces agreement at the end of the conflict that existed.
Governor,
there's one thing both men could agree on, the killing of Osama bin Laden, although that didn't come without a few jabs either.
I congratulate him on taking out Osama bin Laden and going after the leadership in al-Qaeda, but we can't kill our way out of this mess.
I'm glad that you agree that we have been successful in going after al-Qaeda, but I have to tell you that your strategy previously has been one that has been all over the map.
Monday's debate was the last time voters will see the two men on one stage before Election Day. Both are now expected to spend most of the remainder of the campaign vying for votes in the all-important swing states. In Boca Raton, Florida, I'm Ted Fioraliso for Washington Insider.
Neither candidate scored a knockout punch in their third and last debate, but that didn't stop pundits on Spin Alley from talking about it. I was there. I'm here on Spin Alley with a Lynn University international relations professor. Who do you think won this debate?
I think it was a draw. I don't think there was a clear winner or loser in this one, unlike the previous two debates.
We've already heard people say this debate was boring, but talk about why these are so very important issues.
They're important issues because the United States is, and as is every country, is in a globalized world. And so the fine line the line that used to be there that divided foreign policy from the domestic policy just doesn't exist anymore.
Moving forward, what do you think the candidates need to do in order to pull off a win on Election Day?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I think they're going to have to be consistent in their message. I think people are going to be listening because we've seen the 3 debates now. I think the candidates are really going to need to stick to their talking points and be consistent. I think there's going to have to be a sense of sincerity, a sense of committedness to moving forward.
Coming up on Washington Insider, both campaigns are battling for female voters. I'll tell you how they're reaching out to the group. And we look at the latest political ads. to see if their claims pass the truth test. But first, here are the new presidential polls. You're watching Washington Insider. The battle for the presidency may come down to voters like me. In 2008, women came out for President Obama, and now Mitt Romney is working to close the gap.
I think it's good that they're listening to us because we're important too.
The candidates are doing more than listening. Their campaigns are tailored for women.
Women for Obama debate watch parties, Women for Obama door knocking, Women for Obama special events all over the country, particularly in battleground states, and we have had targeted ads in these battleground states.
Then there's Women for Mitt, both groups talking about the same kitchen table issues: education, health care, abortion rights, fair pay, and economic security.
Guess what? Those are our issues. That we have more credibility on that than Barack Obama.
Not so fast, says the Obama team. Each campaign even has special talking points geared toward the battle over women voters.
Mitt Romney wants to turn the clock back on women. President Obama is fighting for us.
Many undecided women say they are trying to figure out whether to support Obama for his stance on social issues or Romney for his ideas on the economy.
Women care about economic issues, and those are the #1 issues facing America. They care about what's happening at the grocery store, what's happening at the gas line, what's happening in small businesses, what's happening in corporate America. Women are leading this country.
The candidates are stepping up their travel, grassroots mobilizing, and ad spending in a race that's likely to cost more than $2 billion by the time it all ends. One of Ohio's most well-known political reporters, Bill Horman, puts the latest campaign ads through his truth test.
The pro-Obama super PAC is called Priorities USA Action, and they produced an ad that makes a lot of assumptions based on a budget with few specifics.
Take away his toys, and he'll play with a stick.
This ad claims Mitt Romney will make steep cuts in education in order to pay for a $250,000 tax cut for millionaires.
But if you take away early childhood education, slash K-12 funding, and cut college aid for middle-class families, they won't go far.
Those claims refer to a budget proposed by Republican vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan. He proposed a 10-year, $5.3 trillion plan that cuts spending and changes entitlement programs, but it does not outline what those cuts might be. So the Super PAC uses analysis from the Pro-Obama National Education Association, which charges Ryan's numbers mean a cut of 2 million kids from Head Start over the next decade. On K-12 funding, a cut from the federal government could force states and towns to make reductions in education. And yet another group claims Pell Grants would be cut. However, during the first presidential debate, Mitt Romney said this.
I'm not going to cut education funding. I don't have any plan to cut education funding and grants that go to people going to college. I'm planning on continuing to grow, so I'm not planning on making changes there.
But the ad targets education, and it questions Republican priorities.
If Mitt Romney wins, the middle class loses.
The claims in this ad are speculative. Ryan's budget does not specify any cuts in Head Start, K-12 funding, or college aid. And Mitt Romney has said he will develop his own plan. So while the charges in the ad may be plausible, they're guesses right now, making this ad false. Up next, an ad from the pro-Romney super PAC, American Crossroads. It was outdated almost as soon as it ran, but that's not its only problem. Jobs and the economy are the big issues in the campaign this year, and that inspired this pro-Romney ad.
This is what President Obama said the jobless rate would be if we pass his stimulus, 5.6%. But this is what the jobless rate actually is, 8.1%.
The ad was actually outdated as soon as it started to run. The jobless rate had dropped to 7.8% by the time it aired. But its main error is it leaves the impression the president promised a 5.6% unemployment rate if a stimulus plan was passed. The report the president's economic advisors produced conceded there was considerable uncertainty about that 5.6% estimate, and the president called the report's findings a projection. He even said our plan will likely save or create 3 to 4 million jobs.
But this is what the jobless rate actually is, 8.1%. The difference? About 3.7 million jobs.
Candidates really have to be careful with the numbers they present, but we think this ad is misleading because the president never said pass a stimulus and the unemployment rate will drop to 5.6%. However, the president definitely created an impression that a stimulus would cut the unemployment rate below 6%. And so far, it hasn't done that. I'm Bill Horman, and we just put 2 Super PAC ads through our truth test.
Still ahead, they want their opinions heard. Voters in 4 major swing states lend their voices to the political dialogue.
I think Obama is going in the right direction. He's inherited a mess, but he has done a lot, and he'd do more if he had a Congress that was more cooperative.
I know some small business owners. They've been telling me that if Obama's elected, then they actually won't be able to continue running their small businesses. So right now it looks like I'm leaning towards Romney.
The election is a pretty stark choice between 2 different visions of what the federal government should be.
Every vote counts, every vote matters.
Welcome back. All the focus is now on locking down support in the states whose electoral votes are still considered up for grabs. Our reporters are in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Virginia. Here's this week's Voice of the Voter.
I'm Christine Long in Defiance, Ohio, a more conservative part of the state. Now, the small town is getting national attention this week with a big profile in the Washington Post because the largest employer here is General Motors. Defiance began the week featured in a big story in the Washington Post and ended with an appearance by Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney. The Post headline reads, GM is alive in Defiance, Ohio, but Obama's hopes here may not be. The article says for Democrats, this may be the town the president helped save with the auto bailout. Just check out the pro-Obama billboard across the street from the powertrain plant.
I've got over 40 and a half years out there, and I hope to retire within the next couple of years. Had he not saved our plant, I wouldn't have had that opportunity.
However, Defiance could be one of the more conservative places in Ohio that could end up saving Romney.
To make national news, that's great for Defiance, Ohio.
Defiance Mayor Bob Armstrong is a Democrat who supports Obama. He says when GM started layoffs in 2009, the city immediately felt the effects, forcing leaders to cut $1 million from $6 million in planned spending.
It was a time of really when nobody knew what the future might bring. And it was in a city like Defiance, General Motors being your largest employer, then Defiance could have been a ghost town.
Up and down Clinton Street, businesses post signs that say, due to the economy, we've laid off gloom, doom, and bad news. The manager at Phil's Hobby Shop supports Mitt Romney. He and many others in this deeply religious area are pro-life, calling abortion their biggest issue as voters.
Especially if you're using my tax money to fund abortion. No, sir, no. We can't accept that.
We're killing off our generation that, that could be solving, cancer.
The lawyers here in Defiance who paid for this billboard told the Washington Post that people's partisan attitudes have become very firm. Reporting from Ohio for the Washington Insider, I'm Christine Long.
This is Kristen Abraham reporting from Grand Blanc, Michigan, where Lindsay Montpass knows she only has 14 days left to pick a president.
I'm kind of on the fence. My dad's a strict Republican, so I hear that every day, but I haven't decided yet. I think he's done a good job with what he was, came into. No, I don't think any one of us could turn it around in 4 years. Mitt, I don't know. I don't know if he has it. I don't know if I trust him.
I'd like to have somebody that's going to be honest and do something for the country. And
even though George Angel is retired, jobs and the economy are still on top of his presidential to-do list.
I'm looking for the economy to go up and people go back to work. But, you know, I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans, they always say, promise you this and promise you that, you know, it's all political. And once you get in office, well, you don't know what to expect.
Lee Rhodes is also looking for the job picture to improve.
I work with a credit union, and the big issue for a lot of our members is jobs. And I'd like to see the economy improve and somebody make the area more business friendly.
I want someone that will make wise decisions, wise choices.
Reporting for the Washington Insider, I'm Kristen Abraham in Grand Blanc, Michigan.
The presidential debates are over, but their impact is still fresh in the minds of voters in Pennsylvania.
And you really can't understand a campaign unless you follow these debates, and unless you listen to the candidates. The country is in a challenging time, to be sure.
All across Pennsylvania, Democratic and Republican organizations got together to watch the final debate. Here in Erie, a local university had a viewing party of their own, where students hoped candidates would deliver on some critical issues.
Seeing basically what the president has to say about what happened in Libya, I really want some answers for that. That really strikes home with me.
I want to see more foreign policy on China as well, but mainly Iran and kind of the nuclear deterrence.
Debates as a whole give valuable insight to young voters, some voting for the first time, as they start to form their own views and party affiliations.
You know, it's just a great way, again, of learning about the issues that the country faces, the issues that these students, when they graduate, are going to have to grapple with, the issues that affect their lives.
You're not worrying about, the political ads, worrying about what audience is this catering towards. Is everyone's watching both candidates live.
At some point, we need to take account of the fact that we are going to be in charge of this country, and we are part of the citizen group that decides on who's a candidate. So being educated and informed is a really important thing.
In Erie, Pennsylvania, Emily Welsh reporting for the Washington Insider.
I'm Ted Fioraliso in Virginia, where polls show Mitt Romney leading President Obama by just 1 or 2 percentage points. The race is so tight here, both the president and Paul Ryan made campaign stops here this week, and Mitt Romney has scheduled 3 stops on Sunday. On the streets of Northern Virginia, people's concerns are as diverse as the population.
The country is facing some pretty big challenges. The budget deficit, foreign policy issues.
As a student, I'm concerned about, tuition costs and things that pertain to me, such as women's rights.
For me, it's education is what is the key of this election.
Most voters we spoke with have already made up their minds.
I think Obama is going in the right direction. He's inherited a mess, but he has done a lot, and he'd do more if he had a Congress that was more cooperative.
I know some small business owners, they've been telling me that if Obama's elected, then they actually won't be able to continue running their small businesses. So right now it looks like I'm leaning towards Romney.
Voters here seem to be well informed. They know how important Virginia is, especially the northern part, which could make or break a candidate.
The election is a pretty stark choice between 2 different visions of what the federal government should be.
Every vote counts, every vote matters.
And that's this week's Voice of the Voter.
The race remains incredibly tight. And remember, the winner needs 270 electoral votes, which means winning the swing states is a must. Coming up, the final message from both political parties and how Halloween costume sales could predict the outcome of the election. Stay with us. This is Washington Insider. We're just a few days from Halloween, and if you still need a costume, President Obama and Mitt Romney seem to be popular options this year. The Spirit Halloween store is keeping tabs on the number of presidential masks it sells. They say 60% of trick-or-treaters have bought Obama masks so far, while 40% have opted for a Romney mask. 4 years ago, the margin was the same when John McCain faced Obama. The store says the number of masks sold has accurately predicted the winner in every presidential election since 1996. Another popular choice this year, Big Bird. The costumes have been flying off store shelves since Romney announced he would cut funding for PBS, Big Bird's television home. In the final days of the election, the political parties are making their last plea to voters. I talked to the head of the Democratic Party and the leader of the Republican Party. Here's their pitch. What are you asking from Democratic voters leading up to Election Day?
Well, we're asking them to be no task too small people, to sign up for shifts of door knocking and phone calls and make sure that we can continue to stand up the most significant dynamic grassroots presidential campaign this state has ever seen. And every day is Election Day from now until November 6th.
Well, I think it's continuing two things. One, prosecute the president for what he promised and what he delivered. Number two, that we've got a better plan for America, that we're going to get things done. We're going to make it easier for small businesses. People are going to be able to make more money for the work that they're doing. Getting America back on track. That's really what we're all about, and that's what you're hearing us talk about.
That's this week's Washington Insider. Reporting from our nation's capital, I'm Jacqueline Policastro. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. And don't forget, in the world of politics, between now and then, anything could happen.